You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. Hello, everyone. You're winning. Tonight, we are winning with the Men Support Collective. So, welcome officially to another episode of Epic Understanding. I am your host, Coach Love. I'm very excited tonight because we're talking about a subject matter that is near and dear to my heart, and that is men's mental health. It's come to my attention that although mental health is talked about and it is lifted up and it's becoming, more at the front of the mind of many people, men are feeling left out of this conversation. I don't want that to happen because violent death among men is extremely high. So today, I brought to you my friend Steve and some of his friends. Hi, Steve. You have to take yourself off mute, darling.
Hey, Coach. I thought I was off on mute, but yeah. Hi. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, you want to know what I noticed about your guys?
What? We all have beards, except for
Yes,
Rick.
yes.
Yeah.
Did you just go out and collect a bunch of men with beards just for me? Because we have our bearded mug challenge.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess have the most manliest men of friends. I don't know.
Okay. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm also pretty excited about another project we're working on,
Yeah.
June 18th, the Men's Mental Health Summit. It's going to be great.
I'm super stupid excited about that.
It's going to be amazing. So 12 Central Standard Time. Don't miss it. I thought I'd bring up your twin next. Introduce this guy to me. Steve. Hope we make it through
Yeah.
the night.
So this is my friend Big Steve. I was formerly known as Little Steve. Now I'm just Steve because I'm not so little. But this is Big
Got it.
Steve. We've been friends for over 20 years now, and he's been a phenomenal friend that has stuck by me through thick and thin. So I'm really
Oh,
happy to have him.
that's
Yeah,
really great.
the other way around too. He's helped me through a lot of stuff in my life that has been rough.
That's awesome. We'll talk about that. Big Steve, you have the pleasure of telling me who we're bringing up next. Who are we bringing up next, my friend?
I can't see anybody else.
Oh,
Let's bring up Rick.
there we go. Hi,
Rick,
Rick.
Hey, how we doing?
Awesome.
there we
Big,
are.
there we go. Now, Big Steve, why don't you tell me a little bit about Rick?
I've known him for quite a few years now, and he's got to know him really good with this group and that. Well, I feel like really good, anyways. And very smart man. No, has helped me through some difficult things in the recent past, and just a hell of a guy all the way around.
Rick, did you hear that? You're a hell of a guy.
I
And
did.
so
I did.
awesome. And so now we have Brian. Rick, you get to tell us a little bit about Brian.
Well, I've known Brian for a few years, and ex-Marine. You're gonna find that out real quick. But heck of a guy, great integrity. I mean, this guy. I don't even know how to say it, but I mean, if there's some trouble to get into, Brian's in it.
Oh
That's how it
boy.
works.
There you go. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. If there's some trouble to get into, Brian's into it. Is that what's going on with his beard?
Probably.
No, nothing I was doing to it today was quite working, so I had to wrap it up and strap it down with some rubber bands. So,
You know what? I relate to that. That's what I do to my hair. It's uncooperative, so I just grab it and
mm-hmm.
pull it together. Brian, you don't get to escape the loop. You get to tell me about little Steve.
Little Steve. Actually met little Steve a few years ago. And it's funny. At the time, my former spouse was interested in him, and needless to say, that was a page in our lives that we both would like to pass over.
Yeah.
um, I did have a few instances though that Steve has been the one there to either tell me to pull my head out or give me a swift kick in the pants, whichever worked better.
Mhm.
Had some feel sorry for my moment selves. And he's also the man that I can honestly attribute my current mindset and outlook on the world to, without a
Mhm.
doubt. All the respect I get in the local group for us is due solely to the work and effort that man has put in to bringing my head on straight.
Oh, wow. That's big ups. That is big ups. I love it. I love it. You know what? That humbled my heart. That humbled my heart. I like it. You know, um, since you are so articulate about this, Brian, I'm going to ask you, what has been your biggest mental health pain point?
Um, okay, can I ask to clarify? Personal mental health or like something I've dealt with or something that someone has kind of forced upon me that's made me deal with it?
Hmm. I want to talk about your personal experience.
My personal experience has always been I've never felt, well, to put it bluntly, man enough. My parents were divorced when I was 7. Father always lived separately, primarily under my mother, but I've never felt, even though I was the man of the house, I've never felt man enough about certain things. And when I became of age, turned 18, I knew I wanted to join the service, but hands down, it had always been the Marine Corps because being the at the time a very short person and very thin person, I had something to prove, and the
Mm,
struggle has always been to and whenever I failed my own personal um, my own personal set goals, I dealt with it very harshly. Like at one point, little Steve had to pull my head out, so to speak, because I felt like an entire loser because things weren't rolling my way. And the because the Marine in me is always got to do it, got to do it, got to do it. And Steve was able to say, "Hey, no, you're human. Things are going to happen. You have to just focus on what the small step is you need first, then take the next." So it's being very harshly critical on myself that's put me in some very dark places in my life.
wow. Wow. Big, no, little Steve, little Steve. You know, in my mind, Steve JJ is Big Steve. He is the Steve. So I'm, I'm going to have to get, working on this. Um,
You could just call me Steve and him Big Steve.
okay, let's
Yeah.
work. That works for me. All right, Steve, jump in here for me and speak to this subject matter, and then kind of expand on it.
Regarding what? I'm sorry.
Well, the initial question was the your big pain point as it
Oh,
relates to mental health,
whew.
and then Brian referred to you in his answer. So I was wanting you to expand on that brotherly relationship that you have with him. And then he also referred to his dad. So I'd like you to speak to that. So it's kind of some layers that I would like you to connect the dots with. Is he frozen? I think he might be frozen.
There he is.
Work on it.
Yeah.
He's freezing a little bit. So, Rick, I'll go to you.
All right.
What is your biggest pain point as it
Well,
relates?
my background is psychology, and I kind of when Steve brought up this idea of a support group, I said, man, we got to do this. Because I know growing up, I was in one of those families where just nothing was ever good enough. Father was a perfectionist, and everything I did seemed to be, it was, our family background was carpentry, and we refinished antiques and restored homes. And everything I built wasn't good enough. I'm 12 years old. I think I built my first bookcase, and it was like he just tore that thing apart. This thing sucks. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's so harsh on a 12-year-old. But
Wow.
and so that was like an ongoing thing for me. And so early on in my life, I started reaching out to other guys and saying, look, we got to overcome the hole that our father dug for us. They're trying to teach us how to be a man, but they only know how to be overly critical. And so for me, that was a big deal in overcoming that and building a platform where we don't have those issues anymore. I still do woodworking to this day as a hobby. And, I can step back and go, all right, that's good enough. And I know nobody's going to come in and rip me apart and reduce my size, because that was how it all went. I basically just got reduced by size. And I even remember my grandfather's only words he ever spoke to me, my great-grandfather anyway, Native American man looked at me and told me one day, look, you are a lion being raised by a mouse pretending to be a bear. And I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
And then years later, my Shoshone grandmother told me, she goes, well, have you ever met your father? Because he thought being a mouse was, something he couldn't be respected. He was little, and if you follow Native American culture at all, a mouse plays a really big, important part in Native American culture. So they're kind of a big deal. And for him to pretend to be the bear, because of course the bear's the biggest and growls the loudest, and and so my grandfather just said, look, I feel sorry for you. Because
so what is the role of the mouse in Native American culture?
Well, they're the ones that are always storing up stuff for the winter and taking things, preparing things. There was a story once of the mouse that pulls a thorn out of the lion's foot, and but they're not probably the biggest lesson behind the mouse is there's no part in life too small, because we need there's all kinds of little people in life, and they're just as important as the chief, so to speak.
So that just hit me when you said that. You are a lion being raised by a mouse pretending to be a bear. Oh my goodness, that's powerful. Steve.
Yeah, sorry, I had a bad internet connection.
That's okay. I'm hoping it's okay right now, because Rick dropped something really powerful on us, and I know you want to talk about the roles that dads play. So help me out with that.
Well, what was the question you originally asked me?
The original question is, what is your biggest pain point, your biggest mental health pain point? And in Brian's answer, he referred to his dad, and how his dad left the home, and that left him being the man of the house, and he felt as if he wasn't good enough. And then throughout life, being an ex-Marine, he had some issues with that, and he looked to you to help him, and you were going to pick it up from there.
Gotcha. So my biggest pain points personally, I have a few. Rick's over here like, yeah. I had a lot. I've been through an awful lot in my life. My daughter was kidnapped when she was 4. I ended up burying 3 of my friends' children. They all passed away under the age of 5. Some by natural causes, so to speak, and then others by outside, artificial causes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just recently had my friend Chris, kill himself back in 2018. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of, I've had more friends commit suicide than that, but that was the one that was the closest to me. But I grew up much like these men, with my father around, but my father was a good man. He was definitely a good man. He taught me a lot of things that I needed to know to get through life. He taught me my work ethic, but he didn't tell me how to actually exist as a man in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like mental health was not a conversation topic. And the way that we're all raised, and I think each one of these men will attest to this, is that we are, quite frankly, socialized from birth to expect no love but for that we can offer. Meaning we have to be able to have something to offer you for us to get love in return.
Mm-hmm.
And that's toxic as hell. My self-worth should be a part of that, right? My intrinsic value as a human being should be a part of that equation. But a lot of men aren't taught to do that. We are taught we have to have a home, we have to provide a home, we have to provide a car, we have to provide an environment that is, more or less violence and stress-free. We have to do all of these things, and these expectations rarely, if ever, give us space to be thinking, feeling, emotional human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes extremely detrimental to our own personal health, to the point where men are committing suicide at 4 times the rate of women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can't shake that fact. That's a diehard true fact across the entire planet. It doesn't even matter what country you go to. As a matter of fact, in some countries, it's even worse. So here in the U.S., it's about 13 men in every 100,000 people commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Lithuania, it's 65 out of 100,000 that commit suicide. So they're 4 times, almost 5 times the rate that we are. So there's apparently something going on with men. And I think what it is, and Rick spoke to it a little bit here, is that we have been forever trapped in a survival mode of how society used to function. We have to, we're never given the opportunity to evolve with women through the 19th century or through the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still stuck in that fight and survival mode, and that's not doing us any good in a world that is much more. The threats are very different, and we don't have to be in battle mode all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we have never been taught to do anything else other than to be in fight mode all the time. So we don't know what to do with our hands, so to speak. When there's peace, we don't know what that feels like. It feels awkward. And, something that Brian said and what Rick said, and what I will echo is that men aren't, there's a weird expectation that's put on boys that's not put on anybody else.
Okay, and what is?
Your feelings don't matter. Get shit done. The only thing that you have to offer is your time. And even at that, the only thing that you really truly have to offer is your life. So what I mean by that is that people don't care how a man feels. They just don't. They care about what the man's doing. And that's all they care about. Then you could argue that, sure. But I can tell you from personal experience, a lot of the men that I know and a lot of the men that I've talked to in a lot of different places, even in different countries, they still come across with the same concept, is that my intrinsic self-worth is tied directly to my ability to provide or to die. That's pretty much how it rolls.
That's heartbreaking, Steve. Give me money or give me death. Is that what you're saying?
I think it would be more. I think men's battle cry would be "Give me love or give me death."
Give me love or give me death?
Yeah, men
Hmm.
just want to be loved.
You know what? So, I hear something a lot different from men, and it is men want to be respected more than they want to be loved. Not necessarily that they don't want to be loved, but they want to feel respected.
The only reason why I would even remotely kind of push back on that is that you have to understand where the need and desire to be respected is coming from, and it's directly a lack of love that we received earlier on in life.
Hmm.
We didn't receive attention. We didn't receive appraise. We didn't receive the loving, caring, emotional, supportive fathers that we deserved. And so we search our entire lives for someone to respect us, because that respect is the foster parent of love. That's what we want.
Say that again. Say that again.
Respect is the foster parent of love.
Respect is the foster parent of love. I've never heard that before. Never heard that before. That's very interesting. Um, I'm just going to ask maybe the guys to expand on that. Who wants you? Okay, Brian. Yeah.
So it's funny that some of the stuff Steve has mentioned is quite true. Yes, I did mention my father and my mother and father divorcing earlier. Um, so one thing though is growing up before my father left, I was always daddy's little helper. My younger
Mm,
brother was the baby, so mommy's little baby boy type of thing. So I always tried to earn my father's respect, and that I also quite frankly feel had a lot to do with me joining the Marine Corps. But even after I earned the title Marine, my father's like, and he's a North Dakota farm boy, grew up and raised that way. The farm was more important, chores were more important than going to school and getting an education. The man worked hard. I respect him for that. He never failed in his duties to be a father as much as he could whenever we were with him and everything. It's just as I grew older, there's a lot of things me and him started to disagree on. One thing that I've shared before with Steve, and I believe even Rick, I don't know if Big Steve knows. Um, but when I was very young, I always wanted to go to space. I wanted to be an astronaut, all that stuff. Um, then the '86 Challenger disaster happened.
mm-hmm.
Years go by, and they're about ready to launch the next shuttle, and I was so excited, so ready to watch it on TV. And my father said this: I don't know why they're doing that. If God had wanted us to go to space, he'd have made it air. That was his mentality. That was his thought process on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it crushed me. That and like, so I was a Marine. It was like there was nothing I could do to get him to say I love and respect you. And at this point, I love the man. I respect him, but I know for a fact if I was to get the news that he'd passed, I'd go to his funeral and not one tear would be shed.
Mm, that's tough. That is that I can understand that, but that's very tough. I am going to do a survey. We've been doing these surveys within the confines of the mental health conference link, and I'm going to put out there which is more important, love or respect. Um, for men. And I just want to see what the mind set is. What you said, Steve, is so powerful. I feel like I got to dig into that. Love is the no, respect is the foster parent or foster child
Foster
for
parent.
foster parent for love. Respect is the foster parent for
For love.
Respect is a foster parent for love. I don't even know if I know what that means. What does that mean? What does that mean?
So if we can't get love, we'll take respect.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, some of the things that drive many men is we need to feel needed, right? We need to feel needed.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to be loved, but many men don't feel like they're loved, but they're needed.
Mm-hmm.
And men want to be respected, but sometimes that doesn't happen either, but we're still needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're constantly not getting what we want and what we need and what we deserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally you get lucky, like myself. Like, I have an amazing and beautiful wife who supports all the things that I do, and I've found my happy place. That is, I feel genuine love in my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I never felt that in any other relationship I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
They were marriages of obligation, or marriages of duty, or marriages of convenience. But it was never about love.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also the first relationship I've ever been in where I wasn't the sole person working for a living. Like, my wife makes just as much money as I do,
Mm-hmm.
which is, that's new to me. I've always been another person's career choice. So I've never felt that kind of, I don't know how to put it, but it's difficult to explain, but it's almost like I'm not alone in the relationship here.
I see.
So if that makes sense. So yeah, men are constantly searching for love, and if we can't get love, we'll take respect. It's the next best thing.
Wow. Wow. And I'm just rolling back to, I have a Christian background, and that's just so different than what we're taught in the church. Biblically, it says, "Men love your wives, women respect your husbands." So I'm just curious. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go.
it didn't say love your husbands. It says respect your husbands.
Right, right. And it's not that you should not do, you do not, it's not that you should not do both. It's just that for years, I've been listening to the preachers with an S talk about how much men want respect. So hearing you say that is so different for me. I'm not challenging it. I'm just saying, that's how my mind feels, right? And so, Big Steve, you've been quiet over there, so that makes the teacher in me wants to call on you.
I think he's struggling with sound.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then, Rick, I haven't heard from you. What does respect look like for you?
For me, respect looks a lot like love, because I'm gonna agree with Steve that
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was looking for. I know growing up, I can't remember a single time my father told me that he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he was in my life, because he was my coach for every sports team I ever played for until I reached high school,
Mm-hmm.
and even though my parents were divorced, he never missed a visitation. But I remember I joined the Navy before I even graduated high school, and I thought, man, if I can just hear him say, I'm proud of you. That's all I need to hear is I'm proud of you, and that'll be worth this. And I didn't even get that. And I had scored like a 99 in the ASVAB. I was off to be a nuclear engineer. I didn't follow through on that because I never wanted to be a nuclear engineer. I had no desire for that in my life at all. I just wanted to hear the words "I'm proud of you" or "I love you." Either one would have been top notch for me.
So respect looks a lot like love to you. So hearing the words "I'm proud of you" feels like love. What else feels like love?
Just respect for what we did. I played minor league ball for a couple of years, and my father, I was like Brian when he said a Marine and what, And I thought every father's dream is that his son goes and plays, professional sports. And I actually played professional baseball. And my dad lied to his friends and told them I was still in the Navy.
Hmm.
Because for some reason, for my father, being in the Navy was, more important than his son playing professional sports. And I think one of his friends called him out one day and said, "No, I just saw your son play shortstop the other night, and he's amazing."
Your
And
dad was
and, and instead, I got disowned.
you know what? Your dad was something else. He's it's is
He's
he
still
still,
something else.
I mean, what's his mindset like? That's so odd to me.
I haven't. Well, it's unfortunate. I haven't spoken to my father in 25 years. My brothers still update me. I know that he just had surgery last week and almost died. And they wanted to know if I was coming to the funeral. I thought, I don't know. Does anybody even want me there? Which my entire family's like, look, we want you there, even if maybe your stepmother doesn't want you there, but the
So
rest of
was your
us.
dad just cantankerous with you, or was he, difficult with the other
Um,
children?
I don't think the other children. The difference was when I grew up, I hit 18, and I wanted to make my own decisions, be my own person, and he kind of wanted to make all my decisions for me. And I mean, my brother, I think he handled all my brother's finances for like 10 years after he graduated high school,
Hmm.
even through one of his marriages. His
Wow.
check, he was in the Navy, his check got direct deposited into, you know, a bank account that my father had control of. And so as long as you were giving him control, he was glad to have you around. The moment you weren't given control, he didn't have control of your stuff, and you might actually make a mistake and make him look bad. You weren't going to be there, and it didn't take long after I grew up, and I have an amazing relationship with my sons. My sons are all superheroes, and they're fantastic. Um, but it didn't take me long to realize that he just wasn't giving what he lacked. You know,
Okay.
he couldn't love because he didn't feel loved himself.
Right. You know something? I wonder if we asked your dad what he would say about love versus respect.
He
I
he wants
want,
respect.
yeah,
I'll say,
he wants control. He
yeah,
wants control.
absolutely.
Can I interject here real quick?
Yes.
Because I left this out. My father was really great at telling me that he was proud of me. He would brag to people around us about how great I was at a lot of these, things like sports. I played baseball, I played soccer, I did a lot of different things. I was golfing. I almost went pro for that, but ended up getting divorced, and so that never worked out. Um, so my parents, both my parents, never ever made me feel like I wasn't loved or that I wasn't making them proud. Even when I was doing the worst job at doing whatever I was doing, like, I was a drug addict for, a number of years. They still never made me feel like I was a piece of trash. None of that. I never had any of that manipulative behavior that some of these guys are expressing. But I've seen more than enough of it in other other men's fathers. So it's not anything that's like, a mystery to any of us. We've all heard it from other men and other men's fathers. But I never had to deal with that. I didn't have it seems like an emotionally available father. That was the only downside that I had growing up, was I didn't know how my dad felt. I always joke around about my dad having the emotional range of a cucumber. you know, I mean, it's funny, but he's a great man. He gave me so many incredible tools, but the most important tool that he ever gave me was pride in myself,
Hmm.
a huge self value, self worth. So I have to give him that credit. I I, I had a great father in that regard, and I had a great mother. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to highlight men who didn't. And what concerns me is that there were far more men who had way less of a great parent than I did. And so I want to make sure that they are feeling the things that I got that they didn't. So I'm trying to show men love. I'm trying to show men respect. I'm trying to show men that they have self-worth and value. And that's kind of what drove me in this direction, was like, why are all these men killing themselves? Why are all these men killing themselves on the job? You know, we die, like 97% of workplace deaths are men. You know, we die on the job, we die at home, we commit suicide, we're dying left and right, but for some reason this is not an epidemic. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to give men the same thing that my father gave me, which was an intensely powerful sense of self-worth and value. And not the bad type. It was the good type. It was like my father would tell me he was proud of me. I did a great job. He would brag about the catch that I made at this baseball game. He still does that to this day.
I
So
think what you're doing is very important because unlike the acknowledgement that a woman can give a man can give a man validation in a very different way. And so I think that is one of the reasons what's needed in these support groups. Men really do need to be intentional about lifting one another up. Big shout out to Carl Sean Watkins. He's working on that. And then Amanda points out something here. She says the patriarchy has had a lot of negative effects on my relationship. I often wonder if we were raised outside of faith, how different our relationships would have been. And so for her, this unhealthy patriarchy that she's seeing is actually making her question her faith. Makes me say,
yeah.
say,
Do you want me to go on that one? Or?
Well, she's not the first person. You know,
Right.
Amanda's not the first person that I met who connects their faith with their their father. I'm sorry, their relationship with their father with their faith.
Yeah.
We call God him, right? We call him Father, but the creator is not a him in all actuality. He would be, you know, more than that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it gets confusing. The love from a a creator, a deity, is much different than that. But it does create. Oh, she said it is her husband, not her dad. Okay.
Gotcha. Good to know that you had good men in your life.
That But
So
if your dad, I'm sorry, if your husband had a, um, you know, an unhealthy relationship with his dad, maybe you're getting a residual of that from him, Amanda.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with the patriarchy is the patriarchy is just another word for how society has failed men.
Mm-hmm.
We are the first ones that the patriarchy fails, because it sets upon us inaccurate expectations of what it means to be a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a trickle down problem. If men feel like shit, guess who else is going to feel like shit?
Women and
Everybody
kids.
else. Right. So if you show men love and support, they, much like women, you give a woman something and she's going to multiply it. She's a multiplier. So
Mm-hmm.
are men. Men multiply what they get. And if you give them love, if you give them support, they will multiply that, and they will provide a family that you would never want to leave. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So, but unfortunately, we treat men like we did in the 1900s, and the 1800s, and the 1700s, and the 1600s. We are unpaid bodyguards. We are providers. We are there to die. That's our job. And we still feel like that today in 2022.
I just want to step back though, because I'm going to speak from a woman's point of view. Is sometimes it's like you are pouring pouring your water on a on sand that's just sucking up the water, just sucking it up. And that's because the wound is so deep, it's so granular. Um, the person came to you um, really brokenhearted with all of these wounds, and there's literally not enough love that you could pour out that would stop that sand from being dry. Not
Yeah.
enough. And
Well,
so you end up almost emptying yourself out, or and finding out, oh my gosh, the sun is still dry. The sand is still dry.
yeah. Well, something that you could also look at it using your analogy there, Coach, is so let's say that love is the water, right? And you are
Mm-hmm.
the sand,
Yes.
and you just can't get enough.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the next ingredient you add? You add respect,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now you've added lie, and now you're making concrete, right? So you're actually able to form something that can hold water.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got a bowl that is holding all the love that you can give it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, we need more than just love or more than just respect. We need all of the things. You know what I mean? We need love, support. We need access to mental health. We need people to be there to talk to us and talk us out of bad ideas, to talk us down, to help us move forward through our own traumas. Because men's mental health, we don't have it. It doesn't really exist in the same sense. Where it's very clear that it does not exist in the same sense, because we wouldn't be killing ourselves at such a ridiculous rate if it was.
I
Which
think
is why I love doing these things with you, is because it brings attention to the things that men have
yes.
been so afraid to talk about forever, really. And now we're finally saying, please just love us. Give us the access to help fix ourselves and fix the past traumas, the generational trauma caused by men to other men, right? Help us fix this problem so you, women, and other people don't have to suffer for it.
Let's go to the generational situation, because I partner with ACEs Matter, Adverse Childhood Experiences, um, and Amanda's speaking to that as well, because there are like generational, um, curses or generational traumas that men are dealing with that a wife cannot fix alone, a girlfriend cannot fix alone. And someone mentioned that, they talk to their wife and they say, okay, I'm going to group. And she's like, good, go. Yeah, go do it. Right. Um, so I cannot highlight the importance that men, you guys have to come shoulder to shoulder. You have to put your arms around one another, because you you can't get it from Sports Center, and you can't get it from just your wife, and there's not enough basketball or golf that you can play in the world. You have to have real life conversations. You have to have real life conversations. I'm going to
Yeah.
try Big Steve again and check on him and see if he can jump in and speak to this
Sounds like
matter.
he's got sound.
Do you have sound, Big Steve? Not quite yet. Brian,
It's
Oh,
wait,
on now.
oh,
So
Yeah.
did you have something you want to share? Okay, I am going to go to
I'm
Rick.
kind of
Rick,
confused about where you're at.
I don't think his sound is working at all. It's
That
just
sounds
spot.
like he's got an internet problem too.
Yeah, you're a little spotty, Steve, but we're thinking about you and your big long beard. Yes, sir. Rick, speak to this subject matter, please.
Um, absolutely. That's what I'm gonna, when it comes to um camaraderie that men can give other men, and a validation. I mean, it being with these guys, it helps take care of some of those wounds that we got as kids.
Mm-hmm.
We were growing up, and because I don't know, for some reason, it seems like when me and my wife have a great relationship, and but there are times that it's like, look, you just don't get it. This is what me and my dad went through, or this is what me and my grandfather went through. Which I had my grandfather was actually the one that spent more time raising me and taking me fishing and doing all the things with me, because my father spent 60 hours a week working.
Mm-hmm.
Because in his mind, hey, I put a roof over your head and I put food on the table. What more can you ask of me? And of course, would have been a resounding, well, give me a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Get out from in front of the television and just, because I mean, he did get out from behind that television and coach every team I ever had, and I appreciate that. But when you have that relationship, when you get tight with other men, it definitely heals some wounds. It's almost as if this guy knows where I came from because he's been there and fought the same battle I've fought, and it's kind of and some of those relationships. I mean, I have other friends in my life that come and go, but some of the close male friends I have, they've been friends in my life for 30 years or more. And I mean, we may not see each other for a couple months, and we see each other tomorrow, and it's like, oh, hey, there's my best friend, and because we just I don't want to say we can commiserate, but we got an understanding of where each other's coming from, and when we can start to provide what other men need, that's when, and that's kind of what this group does. When we invite, when we see a man who's in need, we invite him in and make him right at home, and and it's a place where you can come and you can share your shit, you can cry, and you can get mad, upset, whatever, and we just go, all right, brother, let's keep on going. Let's fight the good fight.
You want to know what? I just connected an idea. I just had my moment. All right. Stay with me, guys. Amanda says this, and the fear of owning it. Okay. And what she's talking about is owning your stuff, owning your pain. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I heard, earlier in the week, or I should say last week, that most men, it was like a secret. Most men don't know how to be men, right? It was like a secret that this guy dropped on me, and he was said, "That's so taboo. That's so taboo." He said, and and then I actually heard another man. This man is famous, and he talked about how he asked a bunch of men how to be men, and they all kicked the can down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all kicked the can down. You'll find out. They found some creative way of never answering the question. Okay, that creates a wound in itself. Then you have this unsure idea of what a man is, and this wound is being created. The only way to heal that is to have the Me Too moment with brothers, and for a man to say, well, you're still a man, even if you don't do this, and even if you're feeling that way, and a woman can't do that for you.
Right.
You have to heal together. And I want to say this last thing. This is the opposite of what I see men do to each other in general.
Yeah.
In in general, fellas harass one another, say some kind of smart comment to one another. You guys feminize one another and call each other mamas boys and uh, P's and B's, and then you talk about one another's mamas. But you're, I mean, you just that's what you guys do on a regular basis. And so you almost claw at one another's humanity. And then the first thing that you say about a man when you don't like him is you feminize him.
Mm. I'd like to say something on that, if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
Um, so something that we discussed at the more or less first meeting was how we as men, we will rib each other, give each other a hard time to see, first of all, can they take this? Are they gonna like lose their mind and be emotionally wrecked by us giving each other a hard time? And secondly, do they have a thick enough skin to handle that ribbing? Um, one instance that comes to mind is a young friend of mine, mid 20s. He never had really major male friends and role models in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And when he would come over and when he'd come to get-togethers that I was hosting, I would give him a hard time. I would give him a little bit of ribbing and teasing and whatnot. And the woman he's dating is a good friend of mine, and she was like, "Is there something wrong? Do you not like him?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, he says that you tease him and give him a hard time." And it dawned on me. It was like a smack in the face. It's like, oh wow, he doesn't understand that. He doesn't realize that um, that there was a saying that I came across in the service is, if I didn't like you, I wouldn't tease you. And that's how it is we get someone who we respect and care about and see as a friend, a comrade of whatever form you want to use. We're going to know those dark secrets, and we're going to give them a hard time about it. And that is something that we use to kind of measure each other. And once I knew that, and I sat him down, I was like, "Hey, understand, I give you a hard time because I appreciate you. I enjoy having you in my life. I enjoy every time you come over and we chat and talk about things." I like he'll call me up, says, "I don't know how to do this," because again, he didn't have a father around to really show him how to repair things and work on things. So he calls me, and I happily go down there when I get the chance and help him. And I'm like, this is something that I enjoy doing. It's me sharing my knowledge and understanding with him so that I can see him become better each day. And he has. I've told him many times since then that I am so proud of the man that I've watched him become.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, with that, go ahead.
You had to educate him on that's part of being a man, but why is why is that ribbing part of being a man?
I
What
I
is that?
can't speak to where that comes from. That's something maybe either Rick or Steve would know. I just know that's kind of how it happened with me and growing up and learning that through trial and error, that's kind of how friends were. Now, something I wanted to quick also touch on is you were talking about men not knowing how to be men. And I know this is going to sound cheesy. Oh my goodness, this is cheesy. Um, because my father wasn't always around, to me, what I thought a man was when I was growing up in the 80s was the movies that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky, Rambo, any of the ones with the big male, that that's what I thought a man was, is you did what needed to be done. If you got hurt, you sucked it up, brushed it off the dirt, and you kept on going. Like I grew up watching John Wayne movies too because of my mom and family. So those were the men that I aspired to be. And I didn't realize just how bad that could be until much older. And my last quick thing I wanted to add on was something that Steve had mentioned about not having a whole lot of access to mental health. It's not just that there's not a lot of access because there's not a lot of people who are willing to deal or understand the things that men go through, but there is such an evil stigma about it. The stigma is so bad, especially my first time seeing a therapist. I was quite young,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw them a couple times, but the first major one that actually impacted my life in such a way that I did not see how bad it was for other males was when I was actually in the Marine Corps and I had to see a doctor or a psychologist because I was dealing with major depressive issues over the ending of my first marriage. And
Mm,
if you want to talk about being stigmatized, be a Marine that they take away your weapon
mm,
and everyone in your unit, and I'm just talking not the 4 or 5 guys that you work with, but your unit up to 1,000 other Marines, soldiers, whatever, know that something's wrong with you because you're the only one out doing training that doesn't have a weapon. And
wow.
that puts a spotlight on you like you do not want.
And you want to know what? That you're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to this idea of stigma, because something's wrong with you, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. You're dangerous. Something's wrong with you. You're unhealthy. You're somehow less than. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe something's right with you because you're getting yourself checked out. We
Yeah.
wouldn't say that about a physical wound. We wouldn't say that.
Oh no, you would get all the respect and the time you ever needed to recover from a physical wound. Oh, even more so if it was something that happened in combat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just had a conversation with Agita, and she's going to be editing it and posting it later on.
Okay.
But I just had a conversation with her yesterday, and the topic came up of why this isn't in the conversation. This was after we were done, and we were talking, and I just made the funny joke is like, why do men act like such babies when we're sick? It's the only time that we can.
Ah,
It's
Excuse
the
me.
only time we can express emotion is when we're sick, and so we overdo it. So
mm,
kind of a bummer, but somewhat accurate, and she just we had it was a good conversation. But to speak to what Brian and you were talking about is the reason why men, I want to generalize this. I don't want to say all men and all reasons, but I think the reason why men do the ribbing is that we need to test the water. We need to see if this dude is going to be okay to be around. Like, is he going to flip his crap over every small little problem, and then that stresses me out, right?
mm,
Or can this dude handle it? Can he handle being around? Can he handle doing the things that we need him to do? Can we rely on him? Because if he's emotional, if he's a crybaby, if he's flipping out over everything, we can't rely on you.
hmm.
So we want to make sure that we have somebody in our circle that we don't have to pick up and carry. We need you to carry your damn self. That's part of the process of being a man. Is we need to be able to rely on you to be the thing that we need you to be.
Hmm. That's fair enough. Steve, what say you? Big Steve, what say you?
Well, hopefully this is all working.
It's
Yes,
working.
we hear you.
Yeah, maybe it was just your house, dude. Maybe you're just in like an internet black hole in there.
Yeah, because I'm over at the mall now and just running off my phone, and it seems to be working good.
He
Awesome.
had to retreat to his car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of lost on where we're at because I
Hmm.
haven't had much of anything for a little bit. So, what
Tell
subject
me,
are we on?
tell me this, Big Steve. What is the first thing you do when you're getting to know a guy? What's one of the first things you do?
Um, I go with a lot of gut feeling on people, and so it's small talk for a few and see how much bullshit they want to lay out there.
Okay, and then how are you doing that? How are you measuring his BS?
A lot of it's talking about stuff that I know stuff about and not correcting them on anything, just letting them spill what they got to spill, and then call them out on their BS later.
What that is we're checking for their level of humility.
Yes.
Okay, okay,
So,
that's fair enough. Because we
and
were
then
just talking. Go ahead. We were talking about how men really rib each other, when you first meet one another. Or now, shouldn't say first meet, but you guys kind of do it when you first meet one another.
Oh, we do it forever.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
you
Never.
you
that's
talk
a lot
crap
of fun.
to one another.
Yeah,
You
we,
talk
we, we
crap,
do it at our meetings.
but sometimes you see it's okay for you guys to do it at your meetings because you also build one another up,
We
right?
Yes.
also, okay, so we have to go back there a little bit because there's something that needs to be explained. We're also testing for limits. Like, what does this do to limits? And
Yeah.
you make sure that you don't go over that, because the first time you push him a little bit too far and he's like, say that again, I'm going to knock you out. And then you're like, okay, I know where the boundary of our friendship is. Right. And so you can,
That's it. You don't cross that again.
yep, you don't cross that again. And if you really want to, dude's probably going to knock you out. So it's those, we establish boundaries in really weird ways, but we know where they're at. They're solid. I know where Big Steve's lines are, and I don't cross them. I know where Brian's are. I know where Rick's is. I know where every man in my life. I know where their breaking point is, and I make sure not to cross those. So ribbing gives us the opportunity to kind of to bond, but also to test boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Because boundaries are extremely important. And then this is just a big shout out. Yes, Jenny, I told them that they couldn't come unless they had beards. That was a requirement. Hashtag bearded mug challenge. There you go.
Yeah.
But
What was the first question that you asked us, Coach? I'd be interested to hear Big Steve's perspective.
I can
what?
recall it. It
Go
was the
ahead.
role of fathers are played in our lives.
Well, it's where's the pain, wasn't it,
Oh
Coach?
yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
what it was. Pain.
Right. So the question is, Steve, what is your pain point as a man? What's your most significant pain point?
Ugh. Um,
Are you okay with talking about it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
My son. I
Mm,
lost my son just over 4 years ago.
okay.
So that's the rough one.
That's the rough one. So it's dealing with your grief about your son.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you did not have this group of guys to come express that to, how would you be handling it?
Honestly, um, I probably wouldn't be here.
That's what I was going to say. He'd probably be gone long before now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, he was the first one that was like, hey, when's this happening? When's this happening? When's this happening? When are we going to have this meeting? Like, I need this meeting.
I'm with you on that. I wanted to connect that dot because I really do feel that's why men are being violent. That's why men are committing suicide because there is nothing, no, there's not enough that women can do to heal other men. I said this before, and I'm saying it again because I really feel that this is the answer. Men, you guys have to look one another in the eye. You have to hear one another's hearts. You have to put your arm around one another and create a safe space where a man can still feel like a man and express his heart in a safe way. I think that's what you guys do for one another. I
Yeah.
think that you replenish one another, um, you know, in a
Well,
manly way.
there's also something else too here, Coach, which is I can't speak for women, and I won't speak for women on this because I don't know how women view these things. But men quite frequently will look towards other men who can have these types of conversations where they get it, right? So if someone hasn't gone through the same life experiences or even remotely the same, like
Mhm.
a hard man who was born by hard experiences can't take a weak man and be helped by him.
Okay.
right? You have to have other strong men that are, equal to or greater than you for them to be able to understand your pain and your problems, right?
Mhm.
So Big Steve wouldn't be able to go to a church meeting, of 13-year-olds and try and express his feelings on his issues, right? He has to go to men who have lost things, who have lost people, who have lost lives, who have lost everything in the pursuit of their goals. We have to be able to connect with people who have similar experiences, and we just can't walk into somewhere and expect to get what's the word I'm looking for, Rick? Not
Rapport.
justification, but the word I'm looking for,
Validation.
validation. Thank you.
Oh.
The validation that we need to continue on. It's the validation has to come from a worthy partner, so to speak. Does that make sense? So our partners in that are the men around us. So like all of the men around us are surrogate fathers to us. That's a good way of thinking about it. So each one of these men are a surrogate father to me in aspects of the things that I didn't get or the things that they didn't get. I can play a role in that. And we look at each other and we say, "Hey, I'm proud of you. You did awesome here. Like I can see the change that you're making in your life. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm proud of you. I think you're doing great and I love you." Right. We end all of our meetings pretty much with hugging, telling everybody that we're proud of each other and telling each other that we love each other. And it's not a big deal. If someone's got an issue with it, well, F you. I don't give a shit.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Maybe men need love from men and respect from women, but I'm just supposing. This perhaps this is Joe. He is a member of our community, Loveland. I'm going to just tell a little bit about him. He is only 22 years old. He has been running his sports network work for 9 years. He started when he was in the womb.
Yeah, exactly. You can't mess up the gun. Look at
And I only let him up here because he has an amazing beard too. That's the only way it's happening. That's it.
There we go. And I appreciate it. Just listening to
Yes.
each and every one of you guys is absolutely an honor. Like all your stories are beautiful, and I think people need to come out even more and talk about stories like this because we don't hear this enough on the map. It needs to be on the map more and more each and every day.
I appreciate that, Joe. Thank
Anytime,
you.
brother. Anytime.
We out Me and Steve are like on a crazy partnership mission here to highlight positive masculinity and bring men's mental health to the forefront here. We're having a summit on June 18th, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you haven't noticed, there's been a lot of videos about masculinity and manhood on the channel. You will continue to see those short videos, and perhaps you'll see some from a couple of these gentlemen that are on the panel as well. Joe,
Nice.
did you have a question that you wanted to
No,
talk?
I just wanted to come and be part, just listen to you guys. I was watching on YouTube, and I had to go help my grandmother clean the dishes. So I said, might as well just come out here and see what you guys are up to.
See,
Aww.
that's a good guy. That's a good guy helping his grandma.
yep.
I do have a question
Life is
though.
temporary, tomorrow's not a guarantee. Make sure you love your loved ones each and every day because you don't know what tomorrow brings.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Can I ask him a question, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So Joe, how you said you were appreciating everything that we were talking about here, which means that you have some measure of knowledge or experience that the things that we're saying are somewhat true, at least to you. Do you have experience with any of these things? And if you do, can you share them
I don't,
and
but I
tell
have
us about
friends.
how you perceive masculinity as a younger man, in his 20s? What is that like to you to see old dudes like us talking about this shit?
Like
You
I
know what
said,
I mean?
I'll say it again. We don't hear enough of it. I've had
Mhm.
friends with mental health, and nobody of them get helped. And unfortunately, some of them went into a really deep path that almost committed suicide.
Mhm.
And when I found out the news that one of my good friends from, let's say, I don't know, back in 2011, 2012, that he wanted to commit suicide, I reached out to one of his friends and says, "Hey, he needs help. Students need help. Teachers are not helping him. Let's get somebody to help." So I haven't heard anything since then, but I know the last time I talked to him, he's doing a lot better and he's working at Walmart.
That's
So
awesome.
it hurts to see somebody that is not getting help in the world that we live in today, the internet. There's so much knowledge, like with Coach Love, bringing these people need to knowledge themselves. People need to interact with people. And I think if you're really good with people and interacting with people, I think anything is possible if you have good people like Coach Love.
Aw, thank
For
you.
real.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Like
Definitely.
she should be saved. Like no matter
sure.
what, like she should be saved. Like
You
that's
know
the
what,
kind of
man?
women that we need in
It's
our
like
lives.
the perfect vegetable, the perfect fruit on the aisle. That mango. Coach Love is that one that you don't get each and every day. It's that one that is a buy one and there's no second one for free. It's just that one that doesn't go away from her.
Oh wow, I love it. I'm a mango.
You're a
I'll
mango.
take
Yeah.
it.
That's my favorite fruit. That's my favorite fruit. Mango. So I have to
Oh, I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. You're welcome.
Oh my God, my heart is just really smiling and filling with joy,
Yeah.
which makes me want to talk about a story about you, Joe, because it fits in with how men connect. So, Joe has a brother who's been a real hero um, for him. He's had some health issues, okay, and Joe was having the time of his life. I mean, I don't think he could have more joy. And he was giving his brother the hardest time. I
Yeah.
mean, this was his joy, right? He was ribbing his brother, and his brother was mad at some sports team or whatever. But Joe was just feeling great delight of giving his brother a hard time. And so I think that was, I would say, this positive male bonding, though. Tell us about that a little bit.
With the video?
Well, what you were experiencing in that moment, because I'm connecting men ribbing one another with male bonding.
You know, first off, my brother is a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. And my brother we are back and forth. It's original six. Nobody knows about hockey. That's the original six. And when my brother gets pissed off, he gets pissed off. And I got really under his skin. I got really under his skin to the lowest of extreme, if you want to say. And as when I got under his skin, I made him say those words. But when we bond together was at the end. When he came to me, he says, "Joe, I know he pissed me off, but we're still brothers, and brothers are for life, and brothers are meant to do things like this." That's how I look at it.
Hmm. So I'll take that as love. And I'm wanting men who don't have necessarily dads or those close relationships with brothers to understand what love looks like. And I said something a little bit in jest earlier, that men need love from other men, but they need respect from women. I'm curious, Rick, what do you think about that comment?
You know, I think you might be onto something there, because you know, I think it speaks to me when it comes to, because I got some really great relationships with a lot of great men, and that happened. I mean, that started. You know, you're playing pro sports in the locker room. There's no end to ribbing that goes on in a locker room,
Mhm.
but and then those relationships carried on. I remember I had a coach who died in a head-on car crash, and he
Mm,
was like a father. And so there were 16 of us guys. It was of course, it was New Year's Eve, so this was the off season. We're not playing ball, and 16 of us guys lived in Southern Ohio there, and we got together every year to remember the coach, and that continued on. I mean, I think I just recently stopped doing this ritual about 2 or 3 years ago, and this is from from 85 till now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the last time I did it was my ex-wife had said, "I want to join you in doing this," and it didn't work out well for her because part of the ritual was drinking, and she was a lightweight, and it didn't work out well. And actually, I think I had Steve join me one time in trying to remember this guy. It didn't work out well for him either, but it involved Yukon Jack. But
I have pictures. I have pictures.
oh, he does. He said I could never run for president because he has those pictures.
No
But-
evidence. Remember, no evidence.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
No.
there is.
They always try to
No,
find
and-
something on you.
Yeah, but to have that bond with those guys, I mean, now most of those guys are either gone or gone on with their life. But to have that bond with those men that carried on throughout years, and now I got that same bond with these guys. And ribbing's important, but when it comes to right down to it, when I leave and my wife says, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I got a group tonight." And if she gives me any grief about it, it feels like a lack of respect for what I'm about to do. Because, well, I know Steve just asked the question in the chat. What do you get out of these men's groups? And for me, I get a chance to pay it forward because I've had these relationships where I got these men and we're really close, and we've kind of helped heal those wounds going forward. And now I want to make sure, and like I told Steve in the beginning, I want to keep this going. I want to build support groups so I can keep paying it forward, because it probably kept me from sticking a gun in my mouth. Having these support groups with men and making those bonds, and there are times that people outside hear about it. My wife or one of her friends will hear about it and go, "A men's support group? Come on, man. What do you guys, knit or something?" And it's like, and it feels a little lack of respect. And thinking you guys just don't understand what men go through. And I actually was talking with a gentleman recently who, or actually it was a lady. She was transitioning to male, and then stopped and went back to female, and told me it was just too damn hard to be a man. She said, "Screw that." And and it was, and I thought, what an insight, because it's not something that falls off a tree. You just go, "Hey, I think I'll be a man today." And there's a learning curve going up, learning how to do that ribbing of other men. I mean, for me, that's how we feel each other out. No, like the guy said, you find out where you can, how far you can push a guy, but you also learn who you can count on in a tough situation. Like we always joke about Armageddon, and what are you going to do in the final days when you got to run off to the mountains and hibernate, and who are the 5 guys you're going to take with you? And it's always guys. I can't think of many of the ladies I want to take with me, although it'll probably be more fun in the end. But who are the guys that you're going to take? Because you want the guy that can hunt, and the guy that can build something, and the guy that can, that are tough, and you don't want the guy you got to carry. I do have a roommate, and he weighs about 400 pounds. I said, "We're going to take you because you're the guy we're going to eat." But, but that's just me ribbing him. And so
I get it.
So we do that because we want to know, when the chips get down, is this guy just going to crumble? If I can't tease him a little bit, he probably ain't going to be able to, he's probably not going to have my back when the stuff hits the fan.
I got it. So, Steve, Rick says I'm on to something. I'm going to check in with Brian and see what he has to say, and then I want you to close us out on this idea. Feel free to tell me I'm full of crap, okay? But just listening to you guys, I kind of came up with this hypothesis that maybe men need respect from women, but they need love from men. What say you on this subject matter, Brian?
Actually, that's quite insightful. I hadn't never thought of it in that aspect. That that in a way does hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why, something that had popped into my mind as we were talking, that the one thing about this group that I know, because it's happened, um, I know that if I was to come into group and just let something out and I ended up in a, a blubbering mess, and I know that not only would those three other guys as well as the other men who weren't able to join us, not only would I not ever get one look or even hear of a thought of them thinking less of me for losing myself and just letting it all fall out, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that in each of their own ways, in each of the different ways that they know me, they would start to put me back together.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's not because it's their job to put me back together, even though in Rick's case, he's probably had to do that for work in the past. But I know that they would be able to put me back together because they love me. They care about who I am and they want to see me succeed to be the person that they know I can be. Not who I know I can be, who they know I can be. Because we all have grand ideas of who we are in our own minds. But
Mm-hmm.
it's those closest to us who are able to see us and see not only when we fall and help encourage us to find that path again to reach that potential, but they're the ones who can sit there and say, yes, I've seen you come from those depths back up.
Mm-hmm.
And the respect from women is a nail on the head, because if we don't have the respect from them of us doing what we feel we are supposed to do or need to do to take care of them, provide for them, be their rock, so to speak, when they need it, that is something that speaks volumes to a man. Because if you have a man who has a woman in his life who does not respect him, you can see it eat at him. I can guarantee you, to every single man that's on here, even Joe, probably in his young age, has seen a man who's dealt with that and how it eats away at who he is.
It
He
kills me.
loses.
It burns when I hear when
Oh
I see
yeah,
that stuff.
it kills their self-esteem. It kills their self-confidence. It kills everything about them that they need to be there for someone else.
So I'm going to say this. I had asked earlier, what does love look like to a man? But I think what I'm hearing from you guys is love looks like um, acknowledgement of what your journey is. It looks like understanding of what it takes for you to hold yourself up and what you might be going through. It looks like acceptance of what's happening to you, and it looks like support, just maybe a hand up to how you might get to the next step. And maybe it's just the next moment, like in Steve's case, when his son is, left this earth and saying you can do it. Maybe that's a support, or maybe it looks like in Rick's case, acknowledging that you're proud of him and what he's doing. So I think that's very powerful. I, as a woman, may have actually been able to put into words specifically what love looks like from man to man, and how you guys can help one another on your journey so that guns and suicide is not the answer. Now, Steve, feel free to tell me I'm full of crap. And if you do, you're going to get a spanking.
Threaten me with a good time.
I'm catching that one.
I'm calling
Yeah,
your wife. We're getting the clippers. It's on.
yeah. A lot of what Brian was talking about there reminded me, like it immediately hit me. It was Cornell West. Try again, fail better. You keep getting back up and you keep trying to do better every single time. There was a quote by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago, and he said, "You only have power over people as long as you don't take everything away from them. But when you've robbed a man of everything, he's no longer in your power. He's free again."
Mm.
And the problem that comes with that is that's also a threat. Okay, if you take everything from a man and he has nothing left, what's stopping him from being civil? Nothing.
Mhm.
I don't need to be civil anymore. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing men who are uncivil because everything is being taken from us. Our loves, our families, our children, our effort, our time, our love,
Mhm.
everything that we have is taken from us on a regular basis. That's why you see the suicide rate among divorced men are some of the highest in the country.
Mhm.
Those just happen to be men that would rather kill themselves than kill everybody else, which we should be thankful for.
Yes,
Sadly.
You know what I mean? But we have to give men something to live for. You know what I mean? We have to somehow fill that void in men's lives so that they're not filling it with the barrel of a gun.
Mm.
And I think that's the most important, critical aspect of the entire conversation that we're having here, is that we're trying to give men something more than they've ever been given before, which is both love and respect. And I
Mm.
think we need it in equal measure from every single person that we can come into contact with. So giving people who are going through different things than you is also important. So it's also the reason why I'm an advocate of the trans movement, is because those people need our help, they need our love, they need our support, because they're going through something incredibly difficult. They're trying to make a transition that we will never make,
Mhm.
right? And whether you agree with the concept of transgender, what they call transgenderism, but we'll just call it the trans movement, is that there's so many things wrapped up in there. You also have the conversation about submissive men, which I've spoken to about before. Submission does not equal weak.
Mhm.
Stop thinking that submissive men or submissive women are weak and deserve your domination. No, right off with that. That is bullshit. Knock it off. And if you're doing that, um, you probably need to scrub your conscience clean, because that's a nasty ass way of looking at other human beings.
We had that question, if a man could be submissive and still be a man.
I saw the result of that too.
Yeah.
Love all, hate none. Love all,
Yeah.
hate none.
Well, Coach, I love the fact that you put that on there, because I looked at the results and I hope they're the same as they were before. But you asked the question, can submissive men be masculine too? And I believe that the yes was massively overriding the answer of no. So
That was
submissive
the
men can be men.
right. You know what? I'll have to check that. But that's my feeling. I do not equate submissiveness to weakness. As a woman, one of the most frustrating things sometimes dealing with a man in which you know more about something than he does is when he wants to be dominant and he just doesn't have the information.
Right.
Right.
Um,
So I will tell you, um, some women don't do this. I will admit I do, because I don't feel the need to force my opinion. Um, and I had a boss that was that way. And so I would ask him a question that leads him to the answer, to say what the answer was. I'd find a way of presenting it to him so that he could come up with the answer for himself. And so it's I don't know, it's a submissive trick when a man just needs to be dominant in that way. Now, some women are very frustrated with this dynamic and don't feel that they should have to do it. And I'm not saying you should have to, I'm just saying it's effective.
Right.
I'm just trying to get it done. But it is a mind pretzel and an emotional, mental pretzel that so many women find themselves in with their bosses and uh, their husbands. But I have to tell you, I wasn't raised to be that way at all. I was in a work situation, and I just noticed the way one of the other women was handling our new boss, and he loved her. He absolutely loved her, and my numbers were through the roof. I was great, and I was getting on his nerves, and he wasn't bragging about me at all. He was acting like my numbers, like I wasn't doing a great job. And I was just like, wait a minute here. She's just doing kind of, you know, and I'm shooting the numbers out of the roof, and he's treating me like poo poo. What is going on here? And so I just noticed the way I said, she's handling him. And so I said, oh, okay. I said, I can do that. And boy, oh boy, did I start getting accolades. And I'll tell you, this is so bad. This is so bad. Mind you, I was younger. I wouldn't do this again, but there was a mischievous little person in me, and we were in a meeting, and he was sitting in his chair, and he was being all big bravado and all these kind of things, and the mischievous 8-year-old girl in me said that I just wanted his chair to go down, like you know how you're in one of those chairs and it goes down. Well, instead of the chair just sinking down, the chair flew back and he almost fell out of the chair. But because he had now fallen in love with me and my new way of handling him, he just laughed it off and just chuckled. It was just the biggest good thing. And I didn't get in trouble at all. I should have been fired.
That's a real man, folks. That's a real man.
Oh yeah.
Flatter our ego, and you can manipulate us any way you want.
Right. So I hate to say it, but it worked, and he just loved me. It was terrible. But anyway, that it wasn't me doing a good job that made me love him. It was me handling his ego that made him love me.
Well, the biggest sex organ on a man is his ego.
Ah.
You stroke that ego, you'll get anything you want.
Okay, girls, remember that.
Quit telling our secret, Steve.
Yeah. Well, if it makes everybody happier, I'm going to give all the secrets away.
Gosh. Oh my gosh, you guys are really amazing. I'm so thankful to have spent time with you. I'm going to go put myself in the corner because I still feel guilty about almost. I can't believe it.
Nobody here is putting you in the corner. I mean, you can be bratty all you want. You do you, Coach. That's why we love you.
Every time I think of that story, I go, "What was wrong with you?"
Nothing was wrong with you. That's a human being. It really is.
I was like I remember the feeling. It was so mischievous and of me. I just wanted his chair to go.
No, but it went up. It went up.
It went like he went up and back and almost just like completely fell. It was so wild. It was so wow.
I've got another question for Joe if he's got a minute.
Okay.
What do you see the struggles of a younger man? What are your struggles that you're facing? And do you perceive them as being different than ours as older men?
Myself, no, brother, no. Right now, no. As a kid, I was bullied a lot in school, and I went home and I went to my room. I didn't say anything. I just kept myself quiet. And if I could go back and tell myself that I wish I could tell my mother or tell the teachers that I can change it, then I would. But I learned from it as I got older, with anxiety and all that. But
Why
look at
didn't you
myself.
feel like you could talk to people about that?
Say what?
Why did you not? Why did you feel that you couldn't talk about that experience at that point in time? Like,
Because when I was a kid, I was really afraid of being judged, and I didn't want to go to the wrong person at the wrong time. My parents split up when I was 3 years old. I seen a lot when I was a kid. No kid should see what I've gone through, or any kids out there. The only child. All of that combined, I just didn't want to show any expression or show anybody that I'm actually kind of in a moment that nobody should be in. It was tough. I learned from it, and if I didn't have that opportunity when I was younger to be who I am today, I would be the person I am today. That's what I believe.
would you have rather had someone there to talk to about it that you knew was going to be cool about it?
Yes and no. I just don't know who it was.
Yeah. Right. But
what
what if there was a group of people, like we have a men's group here we're talking about, but what if it wasn't so stigmatized? Because we're taught as boys and men that we don't talk about our feelings. That's just
and to answer your
part
question,
of the game.
To answer your question, brother Steve, yes, I wish I had that opportunity. A bunch of people, a group, or just one or two people go for a coffee and talk about my feelings or other people's feelings. I wish I had that. I really did, and that's just, I didn't have that opportunity. I had to deal with it the other way, the hard way. It's the easy way, it's the hard way. You're going to the 401 or you're taking the easy roads, right? And I took the 401, unfortunately. But then again, I thank myself. I'm very thankful because I know one day, if I have kids and I hope my kids come to me or ask my kids or try to get help, it's amazing to have a group of people talking about this. I wish I had this when I was 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, right? But 13 years later, I could share something that I don't share with a lot of people.
Yeah.
If I could say something,
I'll tell you what, we'll send you an invite to the Discord group, even though it's a local group. We'll send that out to you.
Absolutely.
So that you do have a group
I'll share
of
all
men.
you guys' stuff too. I'll share your stuff to everywhere.
One thing I'd like to add, Joe, is thank you for making it through what you made it through to be here. And the fact that now you understand this, that you've already expressed the desire that should you ever have children, that door is open for them with no judgments, no reservations. That right there makes a good parent. It really does. You're required to go through classes and massive testing. Like I'm doing it for my CDL with my job, but you don't have to have any type of training to be a parent or to be a genetic donor. And the fact that you have recognized this and you desire to do that gives me hope for the next generation.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I'm 45 years old, and I thought I've already had 2 children, and I've got my third, and I wish I would have gone to therapy way earlier, because I feel like I have become a far better parent with my last child than I ever was with my other 2. Just because I was not aware of how my past experiences were affecting my ability to raise my son. And the best thing that ever happened was learning what my issues were. Having a therapist that I could trust, was not going to emasculate me and was there to support me and help me through my problems. Because I do have a unique set of issues, but I think that's something that I would like to destigmatize for men in general is seeking mental health. I've learned more things about myself in the last year to 2 years with the men's group, with going to therapy, all of this stuff. I've become a better parent because of it. Now I can actually connect, because I was having a really hard time bonding with my son, with my youngest, and it took me going to therapy. I'm sorry?
God bless your son.
Oh yeah, he's a champ. but it took me going to therapy and learning why I couldn't bond with him to finally get me over those humps, right? Get me over those things. And now I'm a better parent, and I'm not going to be sharing that gender generational trauma. I'm not going to be producing another damaged man. I'm going to be putting out a man who feels loved and cared for by his father, who is given a place in his heart where he feels value as a man, as a son, as a human being, and I'm not going to allow that to continue. I'm not going to allow my damaged components break his perfect components, if that makes sense. Like
Wow.
he's gonna leave my care far better than I ever could have been.
Wow. That's pretty significant. That's very, very significant. You're not going to allow your damaged components to break his perfect components. Whoa. You guys have dropped some knowledge. Today.
I don't even know this guy, Steve, and I love him like I know him for freaking 10 years. Good.
Wow.
Well said,
Well,
brother. Well
he's
said.
your relative from Loveland. You just don't.
I see that.
I just don't post a lot, man. I'm horrible at self promotion.
So you guys will find it easy to get in touch with one another. I want to highlight the end of our poll. Do you wish you could be more open about your mental health challenges? 92% of people said yes, and 8% of people said no. I think that's probably reflective of society.
Well, is the 8% saying no because they've already got it?
Perhaps,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're probably where they want to be.
Well, I don't think any divorce attorney has ever had someone walk in to their office and say, I want a divorce. My partner is listening to me. So I mean,
I don't know. Sometimes people don't want their partner to listen to everything that they say. Sometimes when people are, I want to acknowledge a man or any person, but I'm going to say specifically a man who's going through substance abuse can be really, really dangerous. They're dangerous with their words and they're dangerous physically because they're wanting that inanimate object and they're valuing that over other things. And it's hard. I bring that up because when you listen to a person who's on substance abuse, they don't want you to listen to what they're saying. They want to trick you. They want you to not have clarity. A person who's addicted is very manipulative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I know some people in school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember Johan Hari, coach, and his discussion on reasons why people become addicts?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just imagine that human beings, both male and female, and however you want to genderize yourself, just imagine the thing that you're missing, the components that should have been given to you by your mother and your father,
Mm-hmm.
like love and self-worth. What are you going to fill those with if you don't get that? You're going to fill them with other things, either addiction to sex, addiction to drugs, addiction to risk, addiction to whatever you can get addicted to. The studies that Mr. Hari attested to in his TED talk, the European countries that instituted the process of decriminalizing the drugs and decriminalizing the addicts, right, and getting them the help that they need, what did that do? It reconnected them with society. He even states it in the talk. We reconnect people with love.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to do, is we need to reconnect people with the greater community so that we can feel loved and respected and needed and worthy of other people's time and attention. So I think that's why it's so important to have people in your life that can give you access to the things that you need as a human being, and to give people the opportunity not to fill their lives with caustic, toxic behavior like addiction. It's so incredibly important that we fill. There's an old saying: is sorrow drills and bores holes in us so that they may be filled with joy. And if they can't be filled with joy, we will fill them up with something else. And sometimes that's hate. Sometimes that's sex addiction. Sometimes that's drug addiction. Sometimes it's risky behavior. But when we find that those holes are filled with love and compassion and respect, you have one of the most beautiful things on the planet, which is a loving, caring, emotionally available human being who is contributing to society in a best possible way.
Mm. I am so glad that you were on a single shot when you said that. I'm going to try my best to get that edited and clipped out, because I think it's I don't know, it's a beautiful statement. As we close out here, I just want you guys to know, if you would hang out backstage just for a few moments. I have a few things I'd like to chat with you about, but I'm going to put you on screen, and I would like you to give us some closing remarks. And I'm curious your answer to this question, and it is, what makes you what gives you self-worth? Okay. And um, I'm going to start with
I
Rick.
think Joe had something that he wanted to say.
Okay, well, we'll do Joe. Joe, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say that we have to love ourselves first too. We have to really
Mhm.
love ourselves and show love to ourselves first before we can love anybody else. I feel like talking about love, a relationship. When there's a saying out there is, live life itself, to have a crush on you first before others. If you have love for yourself, everything combined will come together and you'll be fine. Trust me.
I receive and appreciate that. It's just that what I'm starting to really understand is that if you don't have a sense of self-worth, it's impossible to love yourself.
Well, and if we're not given the tools to teach ourselves how to love ourselves, that's a real problem. Like, if we're not taught how to love, we can never love ourselves.
Mhm.
We can't know something that we don't know. So
Right.
that's why it's so important to teach our children and to teach others how to love healthily, right? In a healthy way. Teach other people how to love themselves through our actions, right? So
Right.
I'm teaching my son how to love himself in a healthy way. Because if I didn't, he would never know how to love himself.
So I think love and being loving is something that is caught versus taught. Once again, that's why you guys have to come together and be in this, male bonding, because you can catch the affection, the love, the admiration, the support, the understanding. Um, you can catch that from one another, but you can't say, okay, this is how you love. You can't
No,
you can't read 50 million books, and you're never going to see the reflection of yourself in someone's heart. You're just not. And so you have to connect. And it doesn't have to be physical. You can do it electronically. You can get on the phone. You could even write letters to one another. Back in the day when, it was a horse and pony show, people were dying to get that letter from their loved one across the country. So don't let the idea that you might be in a homebound situation be the excuse for you not connecting. You can connect. I'm so glad that we're having our men's conference on June 18th. But I think we might just have to do another one of these informally. I Again, this has been beautiful. I do want to know, what is the thing still again that makes you, you know, feel self-worth? I want to know that. Joe has left us. I think something was going on with his mic a little bit, but I'm going to bring you guys up one at a time, and I think I'm going to start with Rick. You know, Rick was here first. He was the first on deck. You know, so that's why I'm going to start with him. Rick, what do you have for us?
Well, I think I can sum it all up. There was probably about midway through my freshman year in college, I was reading a quote by Harold Whitman that said, "Don't ask what the world needs, but seek that thing which makes you come alive, because what the world needs is for us to come alive." And I think when we get one of the things being in this men's group has spent some time teaching me is, when we start getting in touch with our authentic self and we start reaching those things that really we get passionate about, and that thing that really makes us come alive, it's like a fire. And
Mhm.
when you get a group of guys that are all doing the same thing and nobody's judging them, nobody's, harshing on their buzz, so to speak, and we can light a fire. And so, I mean, that's my goal. That's what drives me and makes me passionate about, men's mental health and knocking the stigma off of it and making it more available and making it more accessible for men, is just to see each man and watch them come alive and watch them light that fire.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, Rick, who do you want to hear from next, sir?
Let's hear from Brian.
Brian, you have the ball.
Okay. So could you refresh my memory on the question? What is it that makes us proud?
No, what is it that makes you feel as if you have self-worth?
What makes me feel like I have self-worth? Um, I think for me, those who know me, is even people who at times I may not like, I'm always willing to open the door and help. Even if it was someone I totally despise, if they truly needed help, my door is open. People know that. I was recently told by several people at a gathering that I make people feel safe to be themselves.
Mm,
And that is, I guess that would be best. What makes me feel that way is if I can let someone be there, to use Rick's words, if I can let someone be their authentic self with me, with no judgments, no reservations, nothing held back, they are who they are, and they feel comfortable like that, I cannot be happier.
mm. Excellent, excellent. I love that. I'm going to choose Big Steve because I'm dying to hear more from him. His connection hasn't allowed us to hear enough from him, but I'm so glad he's here to close us out with his final thoughts. What are your final thoughts on what makes you feel your self-worth? And if there's anything else you want to share that you've been dying to say that you haven't been able to get out, please share it now.
I think you're on mute. I think
No,
you're on mute, Steve.
he's not
The
unmuted.
phone, there's something wrong with the phone. The stream here, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, his sound is not coming through. Oh my God, we'll try
Oh
you back
man,
again.
just make sure that you're not muted, Steve.
We'll try you back again. And I'm gonna go to you, Joe.
Oh, I think his screen shut off, and if your screen shuts off, it shuts off your mic and your camera sometimes. So just make sure your screen stays on, Big Steve.
God,
I hope he comes back.
I hope so too. Joe, did you have?
Say the question again, because my phone's acting up and I had to come on my laptop.
That's okay. What is it that gives you self-worth?
I'm a big believer, a very big believer. I believe in God. I believe in a lot of things, but God is the reason that put me on this planet to say these words I'm about to say. When I was 7 years old, folks, I had very low self-esteem. I was very afraid to come on the camera to share things to people because I wasn't sure how people would react to it. And as I stand as a 22-year-old person that lives in London, Ontario, Canada, I'm very, very thankful that God, my mother, my family, the Booney believers gave me the opportunity to share this. In my heart, if people know me out there, I have a very pure heart and I love to give back. And giving back gives me the opportunity to say thank you to the Lord.
Mm, very nice. Very nice. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you're welcome.
Um, I like your computer better. It is a lot clearer. I love
Is
it.
it?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
much better. Much better.
Yeah.
Big Steve. All right. Hopefully we can hear you.
Hopefully this is working again.
It
Uh,
is, yes.
all right. Yay.
Hey. um, what makes me feel self-worth is being able to help people in any type of fashion. I mean, help people through hard times, like with group, help people physically with my knowledge, what what there is of that. Um, and you know, getting love and respect from my family and friends just makes me feel worth anything because that's something that I didn't have growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had an alcoholic, abusive father, so there was nothing there
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. So that means a lot to me.
Wow. Those adverse childhood experiences continue to haunt us as adults. And it's very important that we get healed.
I take
Very.
my ball cap off, Steve. That's respect, brother. Absolute respect. God bless you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Oh,
so much. Um, all right. I think I got everybody. I got Brian, and I got Rick, and I got Joe, and I got Big Steve, and that leaves Steve. What is it that gives you your self-worth?
That's a hard question to answer, actually. First of all, I think we have to address something really quickly, though, is that we have to understand that even though our fathers might not have been the best,
Mm-hmm.
they had to suffer before we did, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they are victims of the same problems that they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for us to not be overly critical of our fathers and to understand that they had to be in that position before us, long before us. And they didn't have access to the same kind and compassionate men that we have access to today. And to kind of give them a little bit of grace and charity in that sense. Um, what gives me self-worth? Man, it's so tough because I've never questioned it. um, I think I think the thing that if I could say is self-worth is knowing that I am loved, respected, and cared for in my home, with my family, with my wife. Um, I think those are the things that give me that self-worth, and I also give myself self-worth. Like I have a strong sense of how important I am in the world just as me, right? And I think I have a lot to offer. I do my best to be a good man, a good father, a good husband, and even though I may fail on occasion, the Carl Jung actually said something a long time ago. It was really, really profound in the sense of which is the greatest individual value is always pregnant with value for mankind. And to me, that is everything that we do. The greatest value we can take from that is we can look at a man, or we can look at a woman, and we can say, what are they doing for the world to make the world a better place?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's really easy to kind of crap all over people and treat people poorly, and abuse, use, and criminalize other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But the greatest human value is that which is, I think, pregnant with love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most difficult thing for men to give too, is because a lot of us weren't taught to do that really well. And some of us we had the luxury of being able to do that. But I think the thing that gives me the most value is looking at my children and seeing how well they're doing, emotionally and mentally. It's looking at my wife and making sure that when I look at her, I can see that she's having her needs met. And then looking in the mirror and being able to say, you're a good man. It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the way that I would measure that question is can I look in the mirror and can I say I'm a good man?
Mm-hmm.
If I can, then great. If not, then I got some work to do, and I can't be blaming it on other people. I've got to take personal accountability and responsibility for my actions, and I have to suffer the consequences of such.
Mm-hmm.
I really do have to face the world face on. I can't use excuses. I have to continue to go on and move forward, and hopefully bring really great human beings along with me that I can help benefit them and they can benefit me, and using it more as a communal resource to uplift and empower people and to make life easier for everybody rather than just a select few. So that's why I think it's important that at the same time, when we're talking about men's mental health, we are also talking about women and women's needs and trans rights and trans needs and all of the things that need to be mentioned when we think, okay, who isn't getting love? Let's give it to them. I've got enough. I can give some more. I think if we keep that in mind, then we'll have a much better society to live within than what it seems like it currently is.
Wow. How wonderful. I must say, tonight has been great. I'm so appreciative. I'm so thank you. I want to thank Steve for bringing the people that he loves and respect into this atmosphere. It's amazing. Thank you for letting me love on them and letting me listen to them. And I appreciate every last one of your hearts. And then I'm going to give a 2 thumbs up to Joe from Loveland, who is a part of the Discord.
Very, very, very interesting. I love this discussion. Never been on a discussion like this. It's very, very interesting. It's like going to school and learning a different subject, like a math, like 1 times 1 or 5 times 5. You learn something different.
All the
awesome.
time. It's epic understanding. That's what we do here. And then I'm thanking the audience. Are you awesome? The audience is so awesome. You guys just bring up such interesting points, and you're so loyal. I thank you for rocking with me. If you're catching this on the replay, I value you just as much, and you're welcome to continue to put your comments in. I find this journey that I'm on with you amazing, and I can just only be thankful. So please take this thank you as not 1, but a million. And, hugs and kisses, a million times, and then at least once more. Bye-bye for now. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning.